In the world of entertainment, there are products that hit home with large groups of people. Products like that are often called cult classics. Cult classics are defined as something, typically a movie or book, that is popular or fashionable among a particular group or section of society. When this happens, this is because there's something often in there that stands out to them and gets them to respect the artist, or in this case, the development team. The product in question today is a game called Gigantic. Gigantic was an online hero shooter that was revealed July 14, 2014. The development team behind the game was known as Motiga. Founded in August 2010, they had been hard at work on the first game as a pre-revenue startup, which is just a classic way of saying they weren't making any money yet, which led to the first problem of development. If there's no funds, then there's no development, or at least it's hindered. At one point, Motiga found itself out of money to work on the game or even pay their workers. However, they just kept showing up to work on the game because they had faith in their game. Now, Motiga did get extra funding from Microsoft and Perfect World Entertainment, aka PWE. However, this meant they lost sight of it as an indie game team. When Gigantic did come out, people were happy with it, with Google saying about 90% of the people liked the game. Websites like Polygon gave the game an 8 out of 10, GameStop gave it an 8 out of 10, Metacritic reviewers for PC gave it 76, and the user score from PC was 84. Then on the Xbox, the Metacritic reviewers gave it a 74, with reviews from Xbox players coming up to 75, meaning the average person saw the game at 75 for Metacritic, 79.5 from general gamers. So I know what you're thinking, if the game was that fun, then why did it fail? Well, there are a few key reasons, not just the lack of funding. However, people still like the game, a lot of people wanted to support the game, and most if not all want the game back, myself as well. Here I want to pitch why I think the game should come back along with a few of my own thoughts. But before we can see why, we have to cover things like MOBAs, hero class-based shooters, and games that people often look to when talking about Gigantic. First off, what makes a MOBA? MOBA is just a shorthand for multiplayer online battle arena. What makes them stand out is that they're often set up in a lane-style gameplay with jungles in between the lanes, as two teams of 5 push each other back and forth to get to their base and take out their heart. On both sides of the map, there are towers that must be destroyed. Bots for both teams to assist with pushing the towers. Once one team takes up the heart of the other team's base, that team wins the match. Most MOBAs are played are more or less the same. Players start off picking out their characters and deciding which lane they're playing, after which players load into the match at level 1. Depending on what character they pick and what role they wanted, you may end up playing bot lane, jungle, middle lane, etc. Over the course of the match, players will earn experience to level up, power up, and unlock their abilities. Gain gold to buy new items from the shop. The items from the shop upgrade stats like health, attack speed, while giving passive buffs, which help players fulfill their roles. I think what makes MOBAs stand out and give them their fans is the fact that it requires teamwork and careful planning to make good pushes, while managing their builds and cooldowns over the course of a match, which can take upwards of 20 minutes to an hour. Now, a hero shooter or a class-based shooter is when players have to pick a character or class before starting the game. Classes often have a simple setup depending on the game. However, they can be healers, support, damage, assault, or tank and frontliners. Each class is a set of characters that fit in with that role while having a playstyle, or having a toolkit that covers some sort of playstyle. Overwatch's Soldier 76, for example, has a simple toolkit that allows him to be an all-around damage dealer. His skills are a sprint, a healing item that can heal himself and his team within a small area effect, a grenade launcher attack, then there's his ultimate, which is an aimbot that locks onto anyone within its field of view. This tells you that he's built for mid to long range combat. Then there's a tank class. You have characters like Reinhardt, whose large hammer is charge skill, 1 range attack, plus a large barrier shield to block frontal attacks. Reinhardt's ultimate is a large hammer slam that once it hits the ground sends out a shockwave that knocks down anyone that happens to be caught by it, making him a frontline tank, meaning his job is to make space for his team so they can fight or help make an opening to push onto the point. Those two examples alone show how a class-based /hero shooter favors the team setup, as it plays a large role in how players can interact with one another. And although some class-based shooters do have skills with cooldown, for the most part combat is more proactive and reactive due to the different style of mechanical mastery required to aim and or attack players. Looking at how Gigantic worked and how people saw it, Gigantic was a unique game to watch and play due to the way how Gigantic worked. The game at the time had only one game mode, where 2 teams of 5 clashed from the battlefield to gain power for their guardian. Killing a player was worth 10 power, killing a summon was worth 20 power, and gaining power from a circle was worth 20 power. Players can summon creatures at the power circles to gain it for them, but if they're killed by an enemy, that's 20 power for their guardian. Also, when you summon a creature, it doesn't spawn right away. At least one player must be by the creature to actually summon it, so the more players standing by it, the faster it summons. Summoned creatures had their own skills ranging from area of denial to attacking. Summoned creatures that you could call for were Bloomers, Cyclops, Drakes, Cerberus, and the Ancient Obelisk, all of which can be upgraded by using Focus, which can be earned in combat. Focus is the same as Ultimate Charge in games like Overwatch or Paladins. However, unlike those games, it can be charged up to 3 times. Along with the ability to upgrade summons, Focus often requires some thoughts outside of when can I use this ultimate to should I use this ultimate. Then there's the heroes in Gigantic. All heroes in Gigantic have a skill tree for all their abilities, which means over the course of the match they can be upgraded. However, once you pick an upgrade, it's locked in for the rest of the match, meaning you have to think about what's going on and what is needed. Lord Gnosis, Chuck's skill has him throwing the spear at his opponent. However, if you pick the skill upgrade Heavy Barrel, when you fully charge your spear throw, it will add a bleed damage for 50 points of damage over 4 seconds, but adds 3 seconds to the cooldown. Then you have a choice of picking the next upgrade to add Kidney Shot, which adds on to the bleed damage, making it so if someone's hit by a fully charged spear, they take an extra 150 points of damage. Or you can pick Skill Shot, where if you hit someone with a charged spear throw, it buffs your basic attack damage. Alternatively, you can go down the Tauros upgrade tree, which turns the spear from precise range attack to an area of effect AoE crowd control that adds 11 seconds to the cooldown, while the upgrades outright stops anyone hit by it or cools down faster for everyone hitting the area of effect. All that is for one character for one of their skills. Each character has 5 skills from their basic attack to 3 unique skills plus their ultimate, all of which has upgradable skill trees. If you know how some attack animations work, you can pull off technical movements to help you outplay some opponents. For example, the YouTuber Shammy in his videos and actual review of Overwatch and Paladins gives an example of tech that is much better than what I can think of at the moment.
Combat functioning this way has also resulted in players discovering some unique and rewarding tricks like the Beyblade tech on Taito, which requires precisely canceling a jumping dodge attack into a blade dance and turns you into a giant, angry, sea-splitting projectile.
First Guardian that gains 100 power will rampage across the battlefield and slam the other Guardian down, dealing damage to one of his 3 health bars. However, the power gained by the defending Guardian will be used to reduce the damage of the slam, and the other team must defend their pinned Guardian. And if they hasn't done it already, the attacking team must finish off the health bar to deal a wound and take out one of the 3 hearts from the Guardian. The first team to land 3 wounds wins the match. Nearing its end, a clash will happen. This means that the map often changes area or size. This means Guardians, Power Circles, and Summons are all moved around the map. This means you also have to think, and adding to the fact that times to kill were high enough to make fights, made players think about what they were doing. All of what I said above helped the game stand out to be fun, even if it was only one game mode. This is because the game wanted players to not only work for their kills, but they had to think and commit to a game plan, all while having an idea of what you're going to do if things go south. This helped Gigantic shine when it came to its gameplay, because of what it was expected of the players in the game, and the number of options for upgrades, across the fact that players could let alone upgrade their summons, the art style, and the overall idea behind the game made it feel fun, all while making sure that the game kept time to kill reasonably high so players didn't get killed by near unreactable attacks. Now back to the question that some of you may ask, then how did it die? Well, this points back to another problem already stated, the loss of identity as an indie game team. When Microsoft and PWE started to fund the game, some things had to change, which is something that never really sat right with me with publishers. Forcing people to adjust their IP for publishers will often muddy the vision. When publishers who don't play games step in, it gets worse. When I look at Gigantic, I don't think they wanted to relaunch it on consoles just yet. However, when they got funding from Microsoft, they had to spend some time getting the game to work on not only Xbox One, but Windows 10 as well, due to Microsoft's Universal Windows platform. This not only a time Motiga had to iron out any problems, this also had the extra effect of splitting their player base between Steam, Xbox Live / Windows 10, and seeing how crossplay wasn't a thing yet, that was going to be a problem. Then PWE, aka Perfect World Entertainment, came in and started to fund Motiga by buying most of their shares in stocks. Although this meant that they would have to launch the game on the ARC client, this also meant that the player base would be split again. So that's players across Microsoft, Perfect World Entertainment, and Steam. Doesn't look good as that's more work. However, what was most likely the killing blow was the reviews on Steam. One of the problems the game had is that computers that had less than 6 GB of RAM, the game would just crash. Motiga decided to have the game check your computer to see if your game could run it. If you couldn't, the game will give you a pop-up telling you couldn't run the game. Now, this was only until they got it fixed up, so having 6 GB of RAM wasn't a requirement. However, the game got attacked with a large number of bad reviews because some people couldn't play it. Sad really, because if they waited or found a way to play the game or tried it on a friend's hardware, if they allowed it, they would have seen that it's a great game under all the work they had to do to get it out there. From running out of money to working for free, from giving up their place as an independent dev team to fund their game, to powering past all the bullshit to get their game out there to people just because they put their heart, soul, sweat, and tears into the game, all for a chance for people to enjoy it and leave a good mark. And well, they did. Gigantic has been gone for about 2-3 years now, and no one has been able to pick up how the game felt just as well as it did. There are people that still want to play this game, even to the point where games like Bleeding Edge and Crucible came out. However, both games scored lower than Gigantic, and it seems like so far no one has really been able to catch that same gameplay feel that Gigantic had. And the fan base is still looking for something that really hits that feeling, but so far, we can't find it. Does Gigantic need to come back? Yes. Should it come back? Yes. Will Perfect World Entertainment bring it back? Probably not. It's odd when you think about what kind of team Motiga was, and if you look far, there are others who did the same thing and even still had their game played, some of which outright reworked their game. 3 examples. One is Rising Thunder, which was closed down for coming back as an open source game. Then there was one from MiXT, who made the game Them's Fighting Herds, which for the most part started off as My Little Pony Fighting is Magic. But Hasbro hit them with a cease and desist order. Not only did they change the game to be much more original and safe from the cease and desist, but Laura Platt got to help with the game as well. I'm not gonna lie, Hasbro made a mistake with that move, and Perfect World Entertainment is doing the same thing Hasbro did, on a game that's still profitable over the long term and not the short term. The best example of that is No Man's Sky. When that game came out, it was a trash fire, awful, bad game that felt like a slap to the face and a lot of shit was wrong with how that game dropped. However, Hello Games sat down, then fixed their game and updated it. They didn't just give up on it, and the game is now loved for it. Hello Games is now loved for it, and honestly, I don't think Motiga wanted to give up on Gigantic. Motiga cared about their game. Motiga made the game, and lastly, fans still want Motiga's game to come back online, even if we have to support it, because it's a good game. And other fans have been able to do the same for the retrospective games by always being there to ask for it. Killer Instinct's gap from their last 2 games was from 1996 to 2013. That's a 17-year gap. Streets of Rage last 2 games was from 1994 to 2020. That's a 26-year gap. TimeSplitters is being revived, as well as his last game, TimeSplitters Future Perfect, was released March 22nd, 2005. And TimeSplitter Rewind is going to be a free game that they aren't getting paid for. In fact, they're using it how to learn how to make games. So it's a stepping stone as a passion project for education. So, what do we do now? Will we get Gigantic back? If not, we'll probably just have to wait for Project Stamina to be our best chance to fill that void that Gigantic left behind. It being a fan-made spiritual successor to Gigantic after all. Because like one YouTuber said,
ones will inevitably rise up to take their place.
And quite honestly, that's a fact.